good morning. And this is good morning. That's what I should start with. So yeah, I decided that, like, kind of per the last video, I decided before the last video that I was going to kind of like utilize this page at my Finsta to kind of go through a lot of the things that I really like to do, go through some things that I like to do and how I feel about them, some rituals and things like that, whatever comes to mind, whatever be happening in my world that I would really just like for my niggas to also indulge in if they can, and you know what I'm saying, have a very well nourished existence. So this specifically, I'm doing a video on my most recent library haul. One of my favorite like pastime activities pre-pandemic, and especially now at this stage within the pandemic, now that stuff is open, and I put air quotations around that, open, because I feel like, was it ever really closed? But for a smidge from where I am, things were shut down for a second. But yeah, as of now, this opening, this filter is making that it's something in my background look like something, so I'm not with the shits. But anyway, yeah, no, the library shut down for a little bit, but now it's back open, like full service. For a second they were just doing curbside, and that was completely fine for me, because it was like, okay, I can just, obviously type the book in the catalog, or type a book that I wanted in the catalog and just go pick it up. But I'm glad that the library is back open, because one of my favorite activities is to just go and do a graphic novel like grab. Like, I like to be high. I like to get high, and then I just like to go see which graphic novels appeal to me and just grab them off the shelf. And it doesn't help that the limit of books that you can have is 100, because graphic novels are a little bit easier to kind of like move through for the most part. I can grab quite a few of them, and I can check them out for at least like 3 weeks, and then renew them for another 3 weeks if I really need to. But usually I get through them in a 3-week span. But yeah, that's my favorite activity. So I wanted to share the graphic novels that I picked up and read, the ones that I already read. I have I think in the most recent one I grabbed 7 of them. I was modest, but they're some of them are very thick, so I had a lot to read. But I read 4 of them already, and I wanted to just do a random book review on them all, for myself as well, because these are pretty interesting. These are really interesting. Which one do I want to start off with? I'll start off with the one that I read first, which is, my bad, I got this filter on here, but it's When I Arrived at the Castle by Emily Carroll. And this one was, here, I want to show the graphics, because the reason that I love graphic novels so much is because they're graphic. And it can make for a very interesting way of storytelling. So I may have to take this filter off so that it can be seen. Yeah, I'm gonna take it off. Let's see if I can do that. I'll bring it back in a little bit, but yeah, it's some very horror stuff. I should say that about myself. I really enjoy horror. I enjoy horror so much that it shows up in my dreams sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm having a nightmare or if I'm like reliving something that I just saw, or that I read, or something like that. Or a movie or something of that nature. So it's all different kinds of things, but I really kind of like the graphics of this book, which is why I picked it up. I like when it's kind of like a I don't know how to put this, but like the color scheme is pretty consistent throughout the book. I do like when like graphic novels are mad colorful as well, but like I enjoy when it's kind of like, you know, as you can see, it's red, black, and white, and then gray, shades of gray at different places. But this book, when I arrived at the castle, it was actually pretty okay. It like the story made sense slightly. I think that I really have to kind of reread to understand like really what was happening. But essentially, in this book, when I arrived at the castle, it is this cat person. We'll say that. This cat person, this feline character that is seeking revenge on this entity or whatever that is in this castle in the middle of nowhere. And for some reason, this castle lures in a bunch of people, even though it is very like off the grid, and essentially horrible shit goes down. And so this feline being has some kind of connection with this deity or whatever, and goes, my bad, I'm hearing things, but and goes to this castle to pretty much fight this I don't know what to kind of classify this being as, but you can kind of see within the title, within the cover illustration. When I arrived at the castle, I would recommend it just for something to like breeze through, but I don't know. All right, let's get into the next one that I read. Meal. This is by Blue Delliquanti with Soleil. Let me like kind of give context before I explain this book, because you know, when I go and I do my thing at the library, I'm kind of like flipping through more of the like to see more of the pictures, or to see if I like the graphic style, or you know, if like the meat of the book kind of entices me, right? So I'm not really looking at the back, and sometimes I skip because I'm moving so fast. Well, specifically the last time, I wasn't even supposed to be doing a library book haul. I was actually dropping books off, and then I was like, let me just go in here and see what I can grab. But I had something to do, and so I was just grabbing things off the shelf. So when I was grabbing this, I didn't really see what this book was about. But this is probably going to be my favorite book out of that entire book haul. Like, probably. I still got 3 more books to go. But as far as this book goes, Meal, it opened up my world to something very interesting, and something that I knew about, but like something that I didn't really like cater to. So if you see the cover, like in the background, right, like they're cooking, they have a pot in their hand, they're chefs or whatnot, but then like you have, let's see if I can dim it, this kind of like background noise that's happening, and a part of their meal is insects. And this is a book that talks about, let me figure out if I can say this again, I'm gonna have to look it up because I had it, but you know when like there's like the AGY ending to things, like the sound of a word changes. Entomophagy, I think that's how you pronounce it, entomophagy. It changes up a little bit. But this book, which, let me show the graphics again. Once again, kind of this grayscale, but I really like the style of the characters' faces and things like that. I really dig that. And this book, which I absolutely love when books in general do this, they include some really good information in the back about kind of like the contents, especially like a book like this, and recipes on how to cook these insects. And I just think that this was really cool. When I started reading it, I was like, chapulanes are grasshoppers, and they were talking about preparing them, and I was like, wow, chapulines. I thought this was super duper interesting. It's about this person, Yarrow, who is a young chef, and I can read off the back this time. When I arrived at the castle, didn't have any kind of like excerpt, but determined to make her mark on the cutting edge of cookery with her insect-based creations. But her kind of like style and speaking kind of rubs. So she goes to the city to kind of like, make it to connect with another insect-based like, meal creator. And, her kind of approach to it, like, kind of gave them some conflict in the beginning. But then they started to talk about just kind of the importance of entomophagy and just kind of like the history and the culture and the things behind that, from their own particular perspectives, and from their own particular upbringings, and just how it's not just a fad that people can jump on, but that it is truly rooted in something sincere. And so like this book really was my favorite. This was my absolute favorite meal by Blue Delliquanti with Soleil. Like I said, they got some recipes in the back. I have to be completely honest, I'm really interested in this book has me really interested in like involving myself more in that kind of world, and even trying out some things, because truly I think that it's I don't want to just say cool, because I don't want to just be like this is such a cool thing, but it is just very interesting to involve yourself in. Why is this doing this? Anyway, yeah, that's me. I would definitely recommend that one. 10 out of 10. And then let me know, like, if you down to try some chapulines. The tarantula thing, I'm actually not even scared of that either. Like, I'm not really opposed to doing that either. And I don't necessarily know, because like, you have to know, like, I love to cook. I don't necessarily know that I'm ready to prepare that. But it is interesting to at least think about. And honestly, there was this video on Twitter, I feel like a while ago. Since I be running my mouth. But there was this video on Twitter a while ago. And damn it, I don't be saving shit. But it was a video of them frying grasshoppers. And that shit looks I was like, crickets. I think it was actually crickets. And I was just like, honestly, it may have to be one of those like things where it's just like, okay, we're gonna see. Me and my sister talked about this too, and we're just like, if I'm in a space that knows how to prepare that like delicately and like really knows what they're doing, I'm open to trying it. But like, me just trying my hand at it off the random, nah. But I am willing to like open up to it, and I just think that that's really cool, because that book kind of like reinvigorated that like opening. Pause. The next book, I really don't like that this does this, like, I'm utilizing the phone, right? But anyway, and you weren't doing this before, but Woman World by Aminder Dhaliwal. Aminder Dhaliwal. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I'll put this like in a caption too as well. Once again, I really like this style of drawing your characters, like the simple You got some naked, yeah. So this book is about all of the men in the world. Yeah, when a birth defect wipes out the planet's entire population of men, women, world rises out of society's ashes. And so it's just kind of going through maybe some possible scenarios that would be part of an all-woman society. I really do kind of like books that, because it kind of jumps around. There is like a central theme, obviously, of like there being no more men left. Yeah, being no more men left, but it just kind of tells these really short stories, these little situations, right? Like they're kind of jumping around from all different kinds of people. I mean, it's the same people, but just like, you know, little short stories within this story. And it doesn't frequently enough to where, you know, but not too frequent. I really did like this book. I feel like there were some things that were missing and like could have been accentuated a little bit more, but I think for just the process, or just kind of like the thought around, right? Like, what if all cis men cease to exist, right? Like, I keep this up. But yeah, what if cis men all cease to exist? Like, what would this world look like? What kind of societies would we build? And so it was kind of interesting to see this particular author's perspective on what that would look like. I can't say that I would imagine perfectly the same. There were some moments where I was like, but then I feel like there were also moments where it was like, where it was kind of like cis men centered still. And I've been kind of clocking myself about that lately, especially as it relates to this is March, which is almost over, is considered Women's History Month, as far as I know. And I found myself a part of a lot of talks in this month. In this month, but specifically before then too, or not just in this month, but specifically in this month, as it relates to Women's History Month. What's I gonna say? I find that, like, you know, especially like as we're kind of dissecting and trying and moving to center women in these spaces, or center women period, their history, like, you know, these things. And I'm talking about in specifically Black spaces, but in the few things that I've been to, cis men have infiltrated the space and kind of have fucked with the structure of it, and then it becomes a very cis men centered space anyway. And I have to clock myself about that. Like, if it's really a world where I am decentering patriarchy and all of these things in my own world, and just like dissecting it within the public sphere as well, you know, how am I still centering that, even just like in my own acknowledgement, in my own thinking, in my own thoughts? But that's a conversation for Planets Be Wild and not for Blessed Baby. So the last book that I read was Apollo's Song by Osamu Tezuka. This has, and I'm now noticing that all of these books are kind of like monochrome, but I think like I picked this up more so because I do like anime styled drawings, and yeah, I really do like that style of drawing. And I like, I'm trying to think of what else I like. Well, another reason I picked up this book. Oh yeah, because it was just pretty thick, and I just felt like there was a really cool story behind it. But I would have to say that this is probably my least favorite read. I'm surprised I finished it, actually, because it's very rooted in the binary. Very rooted in the binary, but essentially, I love saying that word, apparently. But this book is about a young boy who is, I don't know how to put it, but he's just kind of cursed by love, I guess, in a sense. He doesn't like to see it. He hasn't really had much of it, so he doesn't like to see it, and so he kills anybody, or he harms anybody, or like, you know, he has this uncontrollable urge to hurt anybody, any kind of couple that he sees. And so then he gets cursed by one of the Greek gods. I cannot remember. I'm not a Greek myth hoe, but he gets, and it's not Apollo. It's not. I think it's based off of that kind of myth, though. It's not Apollo, but I forget, and I don't think I'm gonna find it in enough time. But yeah, he gets cursed, and essentially every life that he lives, he falls in love with the same person, and they end up dying a terrible death together. That kind of plot line I've seen in like shows and things like that. I don't want to give anything away, so I won't say which show that is, but I've seen this in shows, so like that plot line is completely okay with me. Completely okay with me. But I think the way that this story was told was just very rooted in the binary, and it was very much so like it was very traumatizing in some parts, like to be very honest with you, and I am not utilizing that traumatizing word lightly. There was definitely like, like that didn't need to happen in this story in order for, like, that didn't really contribute anything. That was just kind of, it spoke a lot about like how man was this and woman, it played that out, and I just really didn't need this. Like I said, I'm surprised that I finished this, but I think like I think the biggest reason why I finished it, and I actually did say this to myself when I did finish it, was like, I think that I wanted to see if at the end there was a point, right? Like if there was a point to any of it, and not really, in my opinion. So yeah, those are all 4. Hopefully this wasn't too long, but maybe I'll put time markers in there so that I can know what's going on. But yeah, hope that was enjoyable. See you when I finish the other books.